Hey, thanks for joining us on the Mike and Donny show. I'm Donny Harrell. Mike Hill is out today, but my girl is Claudia Jordan stepping in to fill his shoes tonight. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Doing, sexy?
Good to be here with you. Now, growing up, we've always heard the phrase, you have to work twice as hard as them to get half as far. But has working too hard become a detriment to our people? We are working harder to achieve success in an environment that wasn't set up for us to achieve greatness in the first place. Well, we're talking about that and more tonight. And we're going to get into that because that's something that I think we can all probably relate to, right? Feeling like you have to constantly work twice as hard and not really get the same success as others.
Also work hard. What we gonna do? Let's work hard. Let's get that money.
Okay.
You know
All right.
what I mean?
Yeah. First, we need you to connect with us by tweeting us at Fox Soul TV or call us at 866 Fox Soul. That's 866-369-7685 because we are live and we love to hear from you. Joining us to break down the issues is Chels Yvette Lee Harris and licensed family and marriage therapist Stevon Lewis. Come on down.
Come on in, Stevon.
Hey, y'all. Hello. Hi, how are you?
Hey, little mama.
Hello, how are you?
How you doing,
Welcome.
How you doing, brother?
How you doing, brother? We holding hands. What we doing? All right, now let's get straight into it. Just jump right in, okay?
Keep it real.
Where did you have to work twice as hard to get half as far as them? Where'd that come from? That mentality.
I feel that it came from me personally, like my mother, and I feel like it came from her grandmother because I feel like growing up, starting from all our people originated from the South, it was always embedded like you got to work hard, no one's going to do it for you, and then they came from a time where it was a lot of racism, it was very prominent, so it was like you got to work hard because the white man ain't going to do it. You got to make sure you tend for yourself, and don't do this for me. It was like don't wait for a man to do it. You got to work hard for yourself. So I think that was always penetrated in my brain to work hard because no one's going to do it for me and not to depend on a man.
It's so frustrating.
I know.
What you think, Stevon?
Wow.
Stevon,
Kind of the same thing. I mean, I think it came from parents telling me that I needed to work harder than everybody else, that nothing's going to be given to you, there aren't any handouts. But also sports, too. I think that, coaches tell you got to outwork the next player. You got to outwork the man next to you. Or if you're kind of at home and not practicing, then the next person is, and so they'll be better. So it's always that kind of mentality that you're forced to be thinking about someone surpassing you.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, I think it's twofold. Like she said, it comes from our ancestry. We come from an ancestry where people tell us you have to work harder and beat the man and try to work up to a certain level so you can be on the same playing field as someone. Mm-hmm. But I also think that, it can lead to bad results, but it's not always the wrong mentality because sometimes you do have to step up and overachieve and try twice as hard because, not just because of the other person, but because your goals are important and your agenda is important and what you're trying to create and develop in this life is important. So it's twofold. We just have to watch out for the dangers of it.
Is this a burden that mostly black people carry, though? I feel like we get that talk, and I don't know if white kids get that. I feel like they get the talk like, you can work half as hard and you'll be all right because our uncle's a judge.
You feel like that. There's some elitism to it.
100%.
But there are other nationalities that also deal with it. I think, Indians, Asian, you hear that.
They have a lot of pressure.
Sure. They feel that same pressure because you don't feel like you're the dominant force. Then you have to try to make it. And a lot of them, when you come from especially impoverished circumstances, where you're challenged and you're trying to make it, you're trying to become something, you're trying to break the cycle of what existed prior.
But Lee, don't you think immigrants, when they come over here, they are taught like you got to work hard in America?
I do think so.
What do you think, Stevon?
No,
I agree. I think that they're encouraged to work harder or to achieve this dream, the American dream.
Right.
Then you've got to put in the work ethic. It's yours if you want it. It's yours to take, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I like that. Like I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. But I think for black people, it's work twice as hard to get half as far. I have a problem with.
For sure.
That's what's frustrating to me. Like we got to do our work, your work, and then not even get the full pay that y'all getting, the full benefits. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of that.
Right.
Are y'all tired of that? Right.
And then it's especially worse for black women.
Exactly.
That's just a whole nother.
We're getting like 61 cents on the dollar to a white man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
It's frustrating too, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's harder for women when it comes to you guys in the workplace. Don't you think so, Claudia?
1,000%. I remember doing a job where I was working with this guy, and his resume was nowhere near as much as mine, and he was getting $30,000 more than I was. I'm still mad about it. And I would see him not do any work, and I'm looking at him like, I resented him. It's not his fault. He's going to take the job, but I started to resent him because I'm thinking, even with another black man, I gotta like, it's like, when can we get our, I don't want privilege, I want equality.
It's like you start off behind already, right? Like you've already started the race not at the starting line.
Yep.
Right, so that you talk about being paid $30,000 less. So as he moves up, he's already got an advantage than you do. So you're trying to work harder to get to where he was 5, 10 years ago. So it's like I'm already involved in a system or in a race that I have no chance of winning because I've started not at the start line like everybody else. It's a stagger.
There was this great meme that went around. I don't know if you guys saw it online. It was like, well, it was like a kind of like a cartoon, right? It was an illustration. And it showed a black woman versus a white man on the track. And they had the same 100 meters to cover, right? And the white man had no obstacles, just smooth sailing, had his sneakers, had his race, ready to go. She had a weight on her leg, she had hurdles, she had someone holding her back and starting before the starting line. And that kind of really hit home because that's what it really, someone really captured it perfectly what it feels like.
100%. And then a lot of times, mostly you're doing the same exact job. You're doing the same exact job as the man, white or black, whoever is doing, and they decide to pay us less. And most of the time in the workplace, we're doing more, actually. The actual job, we're doing more than that.
I have to be honest with our teams. A lot of times I see women really working twice as hard, 3 times as hard, just to compete in a place they feel like they don't have equal footing. And I feel like, unfortunately, sometimes that divides us as men and females in the black community because we're sometimes competing for the same barrel or some same scraps when we should be supporting each other and helping each other out.
It does cause a divide.
It does.
Competition.
And
It does.
start hating on each other.
And unfortunately, that becomes it.
What happened in that, my situation was we would talk about like old-fashioned values and like whether a man should pay it out. And I'm like, until we're paid equally, hell yeah, I'm for the exactly. When we get paid even, then I'll break you off and take you shopping.
Exactly.
And trick off on you and all that.
Let's be honest though, there are a lot more women executives now also.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more women in power, especially in entertainment, our field. There's a lot of women in power. Kudos to them.
And right now, the most educated group of people in America are black women.
Yeah.
Black women, y'all.
100%.
So why are we still getting paid 61% on the dollar?
Yeah, so why do you think they devalue women so much, Steve?
Let's go deep. Let's go deep.
Right. Let's open this up.
Wow.
I don't know that I would say devalued, but I guess it kind of is, right? It's a place of where women and black women are not giving the same opportunity, the same starting point, or like the same kind of playing field.
Think it's a slave mentality?
I mean, it could kind of go back to that. I think that in society, I mean, if we're being honest, right, people of color have been relegated to places that aren't kind of at the same level of prestige as you know, kind of the mainstream culture, and that's just facts, right? Like the system is what it is.
So we
didn't design it. We are you know, participants in it.
Right.
Shells, do you think, and maybe you feel me on this, I feel like the way they still do it like this, because if they gave us what we wanted, we wouldn't need them. As long as we get paid less, we still need y'all
100%.
raggedy asses.
100%.
Okay, I'm not saying.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm
hold on. Okay, so one thing. I don't know if the modern woman exactly needs this. They've created a world where they are very empowered. So the modern woman is very empowered. But also, let's also talk about beyond slavery. The women have not always had equality, white or black. So there is a structure here in America that definitely keeps women, and it's not our system that we created. It's a system we kind of participate in, and we're trying to change and evolve. But that's an old system in America that's been way before our lives.
Now, Claudia, if you can agree that when we do speak up, we are labeled as the angry black woman.
Ooh,
But a man's labeled as assertive and a boss. Exactly.
We speak up as, oh, she's just always complaining about everything. She should take this little money we give her. We're glad she gave us a shot and everything else. And it's like, why should I be happy that you gave me pennies when the person next to me, which happens to be my counterpart, we're doing the same job as a man, and he's getting paid so much more money? Then if I speak up, not only are we labeled as angry black women, but we can get fired. Like, our job is on the risk.
Yes, we do.
No, you bring up a great point, though, and I think you're a psychologist, so I'll go into that, too, because there is a thing where we cannot be emotional at the job. We're not allowed to express emotion as people of color. We have to be calm and cool, which is why Obama was a perfect example, but that's not everybody. And at times you are frustrated, you have to make a point, you're passionate. That can't be mistaken as anger or being upset or moody. And that happens a lot to women.
Do you think because a lot of times we're like more physically like larger, and we black folks, right? We're stronger, right? So everything we do is like almost threatening to the weakest. the weaker folks, right? We put a little bit of bass in our voice. We're being aggressive and we scare people, right?
Yeah, you kind of do scare people.
And even if you scale it down, they still feel approached. So it's like, I don't know how to do it via email. Then it's like, I don't know if I seem loud. If I come up to you, then it's like, excuse me, like, can I help you? I don't really know how to go about it. That's something I'm still kind of channeling through. Like, it's sad that when I go into work, I have to make a decision to say, should I keep this? Or do I keep my integrity and speak up for myself? And that's a decision we shouldn't have to make when we go to work.
It shouldn't be so stressful for us in the workplace, right? Like, it feels like we have to constantly avoid landmines.
Right. Well, it's the code switching, right? Like,
that's the word. That's it, right?
Yeah. Like, we 100%. Have to be a particular way at work or in kind of public spaces than we are in private. Like, we have to really change who we are because it's not, maybe so socially accepted, or we got to make sure that other people are comfortable. And so we have to do this dance, and I don't know that other kind of races or other individuals have to do it as much as we do.
Let me ask you guys a question. So how does this mentality, all you guys, fill us in the workplace? How does that fill us in the workplace?
I think it fills us because...
Overworking.
Overworking fails us because we are neglecting our self-care. Right. Because I am working twice as hard, I'm not taking care of myself, I'm walking around in eggshells and fear that I might lose my place of employment. Right. If I lose my place of employment, then how am I going to eat? How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay for my car? But at the same time, how are you going to do that if you're sick? If you're not using your PTO, if you're not taking the self-care, if you're not resting, if you're not exercising, if you're not eating right, like that fails us in the workplace. And even if we do get to the place that we want to do for working twice as hard, we are still below our other counterparts.
But isn't it all a part of working? Like what are we supposed to do?
Well, I want to piggyback on that before we get to the master right here with this. Because
not the master.
It's important when she's saying that because we deal with heart disease, we deal with obesity,
depression,
we deal with stress, depression, and things you can't even claim because now we don't even medicate properly when it comes to therapy. So sometimes we use other ways to to deal with these issues, and they're not healthy. So yeah, you can overwork, you can achieve, but if you can't survive long enough to enjoy the benefits or the fruits of your labor, what benefit is that?
Do you think do you think we complain too much as far as black people? Because white people have the same stresses and heart disease and all that. What do you think about that, doctor?
I'm not.
We complain about everything.
You've elevated now.
Yeah, he made me something I'm not. But I guess I'm saying is the idea that if why is it complaining when we say it, right? Right? Like if someone else is assertive, I mean, if you watch any of like the impeachment hearings or stuff like that, you've seen a lot of energy and a lot of emotion. Emotions are not a bad thing. I mean, we have them for a reason, right? Like we have a range of emotions, we should be able to show them.
Yes.
It's how it's interpreted by kind of, I guess, greater society that really impacts us. And for us, we have a different set of rules, if we're just being honest, that we have to live by. And so that we've got to think about how it's going to be perceived, when we, I guess, show emotion in a exercised way, so to speak.
So they want us to be more subtle, and don't you think that's kind of makes us accept injustice? If we have to bring it down, right? That's almost like accepting the bullshit.
Which is a disconnect, right? Because we know the system's not fair. We know that we shouldn't be paid $30,000 less if I'm doing the same job and I have the same qualifications on paper, right? But then if we speak up about it, like you said, we risk losing our job. Absolutely. And so it's hard to kind of reconcile within ourselves this idea that I know I'm not getting what I'm supposed to, but also I got to be okay with what I have.
Right.
But to Donnie's point, yes, we do complain. Black people be complaining about everything. We walk in the house, oh, why this lights on? Why this it's smelling here? Oh, pull this out. Yeah. And we take that same type of energy low-key to work. Like you get to your jacks, who moved my stuff? Exactly. Where everybody at? This coffee tastes funny.
Yeah. You think it's a part of our culture?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think we do it. We don't even realize that we're doing it. We're just we feel like we're talking. And where did that come from? You came in the house, your mom, your grandmother, your auntie or something.
Start in on you immediately. She was at the door.
We're going to keep it real in here. Let's stop getting to all this. Let's keep it real. Let's talk about our people so we can better our people.
Yeah. We do complain a lot, but I'm going to say this. We could take that L before, but now I think a lot of things have changed in society in this country now that Donald Trump has been in office, right?
Yeah.
Look at how much stuff he complains about, bitches and complaints, and his people will forever say he's assertive, he's putting America first, he's doing this, that, and the third. Look at how unfair and how uneven that is. Michelle Obama wore a shirt that showed her arms, and it was like she was like damn near naked out there. We've seen
Melania's
tan suit.
We've seen Melania's entire vagina, and like so. I think we do have.
I missed that one. I was gonna say missed that one.
You
but
can
okay.
Google it.
I'll trust you.
But I'm saying like I feel like they almost want to make us feel like we're crazy sometimes. I feel like they almost want to make us feel like we're crazy sometimes. But now this man came along, and he's doing it like 10 times worse. So I feel like we have every right to complain. Until things are fair, why should we not complain?
Well, what are we gonna do about it? What are we gonna do about it, Claudia?
Well, we can't just march.
No, we can't.
We have to start fighting amongst ourselves. That's number one, because we ain't getting nowhere until we do that. So when we solidify ourselves as one, it needs to be like not us against them, but we got to get ourselves together.
Which is empowerment. You know, we got to own ours and have control of ours.
But you know what I hate, Lee? I hate when we always say, "Oh, we gotta stick together. We gotta do that," and we the same ones bite back.
That's true.
Each other.
That's not real.
We come on, man.
That's
You know
not
we be
real.
doing that because she just said she was hating. She was mad somebody was making third.
But I was rightfully hating.
Let's talk about that too, because sometimes we're in a position of competing, and then we don't partner with that person. So we feel like one of us is going to make it through that door.
Right.
And there's a scarcity mentality.
Yes.
And that scarcity mentality will destroy us because we're thinking, oh, if it's two of y'all, me and him, only one of us going to get that job. So now I can't be cool with you. I can't be friendly with you. And I might even throw some salt on your game. So then it creates a bad energy between each other, which is not even necessary.
And you know what else, Lee? When we get in, we don't pull each other up.
You're right.
You know we don't pull each other up, do we, Claudia?
It's rare. That's why the few people that have done that for me, like they'll always forever have they'll always get love for me in my life.
Right.
Because I understand that we have this thing, like we hoard things, like I don't know another opportunity's gonna come along, so I can't share. But if we stop doing that, like look how Asians pour all their money back into the Asian community. Look how the Latino community, and they support each other. We don't do that. We're like the only one that we make everybody else wealthy. I think we'd have less of that hoarder mentality if we poured back into our own because they'd be more successful. We'd make more millionaires. We certainly make millionaires and billionaires of other brands.
We do.
Well,
you're
were we
right.
taught how to do that, though? I think is kind of the thing I wonder is, were we taught to kind of work collaboratively in that way? I think that it was natural for us, but I don't know that that's been encouraged.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's like Lee was saying is that if there's an opportunity, it's only going to be one of us that get it, so we have to fight for it.
And there's some memes mentally that we have, like black stores aren't as good, black isn't as good. So there's some stuff we touch on. It kind of defeats us sometimes.
Now, let me say this real quick about black-owned businesses. I love the support, but the customer service is just not there.
Stop.
No. I'm sorry. I ordered a shirt from a black-owned business. You slapped on a little label on your T-shirt, and it took 68 weeks to get it, and I DM'd you, and
we gotta help them. We gotta teach them.
Okay, when I first reached out to you, it's gonna be very nice. Hi, I'm sorry I didn't receive my shirt. And then you look at my DM and you reply.
But see, that judgment has happened on us before we even start because people already have an assumption about the way you're gonna operate, the way you're gonna do business, and that sometimes already puts you with the lock and key at the track.
They did a fine job of getting us to be like this.
Yeah,
they did a fine job.
Psychological.
Jim Crow, all that stuff. They did a fine job of making us be like this. We are suspicious of each other in the workplace. We think someone's coming for us in the workplace. We don't like build like we should. People like partner up to the other side, the opposition, the oppressors, instead of helping each other out. We do that.
Okay, so when we gonna stop saying they did a fine job? When we just gonna take charge and start doing what we supposed to do?
That's it.
When we gonna do that?
That's right. Step it up.
We can't keep on saying, "Oh, the white man enslaved us." Oh,
but we do have to identify the problem.
Hold up,
on the same page.
Hold up,
and
beautiful.
Then move
Hold
forward.
up, beautiful. What I'm saying is that if we keep on looking backwards, we gonna keep tripping.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
And that's
we
why I
gotta look
say our work
forward.
is important because when you work harder, you're not comparing yourself to them.
Yes.
You're working hard comparing yourself to yourself.
Exactly.
And to who you think is in the highest position that you should achieve.
But to your point, how are we going to do it? We're still fighting to get in those spaces to be able to go back to pull somebody up.
Listen to what I'm saying, Siobhan. I start my own thing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never had a job in my life but this one.
Yeah, you can't always ask somebody to get in. You can't ask,
So I always did it for myself.
That's right.
I didn't have anything. I grew up in the ghetto. But you know what? I wanted something better for myself. So I kept on striving to do better. I didn't want to work for nobody.
But did you work twice as hard to get it?
Every day.
See, there you go.
So you don't have a problem working twice as hard?
I'm going to work hard as hell. You know what I'm saying? So I can get that bread.
I don't have a problem with the twice as hard. I have a problem with the half as much.
Yeah, that's the second half of that.
That's the second half.
I'm putting in the work and I'm not getting the rewards.
I need the same. I'm not even asking for more. Just give me the same.
But you're okay with doing that because you feel like you've been rewarded for doing that.
Say it again?
I said you're okay doing that, working twice as hard because you feel like you've been rewarded for doing so.
Because I don't want to accept just anything. Right. So I'm not going to work for $10 an hour because I feel like my worth is more than $10 an hour. So I'm gonna get out there and bust my ass.
So it's the mentality.
I get more. I have a different mentality.
100%.
And I think I grew up on the same block you probably grew up on, but I just chose a different path to go. You know what I'm saying? To get that money.
And I grind like that too. And I would say this, so sometimes there's two ways. There's how do we see ourselves, or are we seeing ourselves the way we think they see us? It's important to make sure you're seeing yourself and have your own self-empowerment, your own self-respect, and not put your self-empowerment or self-respect in their hands. It's like, how do you see me? Doesn't matter. How do you see yourself and how do you see yourself progressing in this life?
Yes, so give me a hand on that.
So, you have first-hand knowledge of this mentality. Like, what is your story?
And I do, and just to attest to all of you guys can agree to disagree. That's great what you guys are saying, but still, as men, you do not have it as hard as women do. I get it. You guys could say that. It sounds great. It sounds wonderful. But as a woman and as a black woman, I have to work 3 times as hard because someone might select someone next to me that is not black, and I do know firsthand about it. I was working myself really hard, really hard, always trying to make sure I say yes to every opportunity and not saying no, and I neglected myself. I didn't have a good diet. I stopped exercising. I got all this like stress and anxiety and depression, and I felt like I had to meet up to the pressure because if I say no, I felt like the opportunity was going to go to someone who did not look like me.
So you burnt yourself out.
I burned myself out 100%. I made myself sick. It was one incident where I was on my way to work because I was on my way to work in the morning. I got home late from another opportunity, another event, and I was in traffic and I felt dizzy. And I felt like I was gonna faint. So I pulled over and I was on the side of the road and I just could not drive. I barely could open my eyes. I had to call an ambulance to take me from the side of the road. Took me to the hospital. They found out I was dehydrated. They found out I was severely anemic. They ran all these tests on me, and a lot of the questions they were asking me to find out what's wrong with me were general questions. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you drinking water? Like, those are basic things we should be doing, but I was neglecting those things to make sure I had those opportunities because I feel like I had to work twice as hard. And I just think it's extremely unfair, and now I don't have that mentality anymore because at this point I feel like, you know what God has for me is for me. I don't have to overexert myself, and I don't have to feel like I have to prove to somebody for the opportunities because whatever's going to come to me is going to come to me. It's not worth my health.
Well, you know what's funny about that? And I'm glad you shared that because it came from you. At the end of the day, you made the decision of how you're going to be treated and how you're going to treat yourself. And that's a powerful position.
Where did that pressure to not say no, where did that come from? Is that something you put on yourself or is that something that they put on you?
I think it's something I put on myself, and I think it's something that I took from like society. I think, and also like my peers and like social media, just to be honest. And I felt like I always had to make sure it looked like I was working. Like I had the never not working mentality and team no sleep. It's not cute.
There's a lot of baloney on the internet that's live.
Like, I can't sleep,
no sleeping. Sleeping when you're dead, sleep when you're dead. Oh, you about to be dead.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like I had that pressure because I felt like I had an image to uphold. I felt like people knew me from working. People knew me from working hard. People knew me from being busy. So I felt like if I was to escape that life or that parallel, people were going to be like, oh, she ain't doing it. I thought she would. Quickly.
It's the hustle.
Our
the
people
hustle.
too.
Judgment.
Judgment, quick as hell. As soon as they see you not doing something like, oh, I thought you was working. What you doing here? Oh, you sleep? You taking a nap? I'm surprised.
But if you work, you have to always be working. You can't not work.
And you know what? Let me tell you something, Shells, Lee, and Stefan. My favorite movie is The Bronx Tale. And in that movie, the dude said, nobody cares.
That's real.
You get what I'm saying?
Right. That's real.
So when nobody cares, we got to make ourselves care and do what we're supposed to do. So what we need to do is start opening up our own businesses.
That's right.
So we won't have to take that $30,000 less and do the right thing so we can employ ourselves. That's what I'm all about because, like I said, nobody cares.
They don't.
You know what I'm saying? They don't care. So we can complain all we want. You know what I'm saying? Claudia?
I mean...
She's like, I do not agree.
No, I do, but I just feel like it sounds a lot easier than it is.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? Like, anyone could say, like, and I think that's like what a lot of talking points that we hear, like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, but then they won't give you the loan.
I was gonna say,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
or
not
you don't
as
have
easy.
the capital. You don't have a parent that can loan
there's a lot more obstacles, and you had it. Now, I'm not going to say you're lucky.
No, you can't.
You hustles. I'm not saying you're lucky. I would never put luck on someone because I feel like that takes away from your hard work.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, like, there are things that we have to like get approved for and get help for and ask for, and a lot of times we're getting turned down for those things, so it's not as easy for us to just start a business. You know what I mean? And that's not me complaining. That's a problem with the system. It's a problem with the system.
Right.
And then when that happens, what do people do? They turn to the street. I can't get a loan, so I'm gonna make my money illegally, and then that turns into a whole nother problem. So it's like kind of like, what are we supposed to do?
Illegally?
Well, what Malcolm is
necessary. I mean, I said that too.
You made a point earlier. I want to go. There's another side of what you said too, like about working hard and doing all that stuff. There's some people in the game that know you're going to work that hard. And so while you're working that hard, they're kind of subliminally not stopping you, knowing you're trying to prove yourself, going to let you work that hard, going to let you burn out. And we feel like these replaceable pieces. Like, oh, if you don't do that, you don't do everything, you're not going to have the opportunity. And they look at it like, let her burn out or let her do that, I'm going to get another one. So we're in a weird position of trying to make it. And I feel everything you went through, and I'm sorry you went through that. It's a good lesson for everybody because they need to know. But people don't care.
Yeah, they don't care, man. When I was young, man, my mother used to go to work every day that I was a little kid. I had to go to ABC Market on Adams, scrape up the pennies. I'm gonna keep it real. I used to steal lunch meat, put it in my, but after that, I said, you know what? I used to push baskets and ask people, can I carry their bags to the car, pump gas? And I said, you know what? I'm gonna get me some money.
That's it.
And I'm not gonna depend on nobody else. So we have to start looking within ourselves and start, what are we gonna do for self? You know what I mean? If we don't, we just gonna keep on complaining to the man.
Do you think that people are not built the way they were back in the day? Do you feel like people expect things a little more easy now? I kind of see a little bit of that. Like, I don't hear those same stories of, people getting a paper route. I had one of those back in the day. I'm saying I did that and all that really hard work, and I feel like I meet people that say, hey, Claudia, I want to be famous. Can you help me? And they don't want to do the hard work. I go, do you know what that entails? That entails getting on a Greyhound bus from New York, from Providence to New York 3 times a week and getting told no 3 times a week.
Well, you touched on something, because it's not sexy to struggle.
Right.
People don't want to go through a struggle.
And people don't want to talk about it. And I think more of us have to talk about those days of struggling and hustling and doing what you got to do and talk about all those no's. That's why I really respect Tyra Banks, right? She said she went to 11 agencies. And they all told her, hell nah.
Wow.
And it was like the 12th one, I think, that said yes. And I feel like, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to crap on this generation. I'm not doing that.
I will crap on it because this is an influencer culture.
Right.
So it's very easy to have this mug, get whatever likes, and they send a check to you. That's not hard work at all.
That is true. And I don't want to say everyone, but there is a lot of that. And I feel like they don't have, I don't really see those stories. I don't see people out there delivering newspapers.
No,
Can I cut your grass?
There, right? Like, we're used to getting things instantaneously now.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I go on Google, I get all the answers I've ever wanted. I don't have to go to an encyclopedia and look anything up.
Go to the library.
Right, 100%, right? And so it's like, well, I want it now. I don't want to have to wait. And that's why I think you see younger generations, I guess, kind of shifting the rules around that stuff, where they don't stay at jobs for 6 years, 10 years, 20 years.
They want everything instant.
Yeah, they're like, 6 months, if you haven't given me a raise or you don't see my value or worth, I'm out of there.
That's right.
I think that's so bad for our society, because I feel like people now, people are like cracking under pressure, and the pressure is so little compared to what real pressure is. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't get that job on that first try, I want to kill myself.
Right, because the coping
I'm so
skills
depressed.
aren't there.
Right? Like,
the resilience.
There's no coping skills. With struggle, it builds character, and it does build coping skills.
Yep.
Let me say this. With this lady right here, she told me some stories. She works her ass off. You get what I'm saying? And she keeps it real. So if you guys are aspiring to be a journalist or whatever, look at Claudia, because she ain't no fake. Just don't let this beauty fool you. She's been hustling. So more people got to take her path and be inspired by her and say, how can I do it? And ask her some questions, how you can make it happen.
I'll do my part and share a little bit. Back in 1995, I think it was, I was out of college. I went and worked for a TV station in Boston, Channel 7. It was not a sexy job. It was probably like $6 an hour, and I had to take a bus and a train to Boston from Providence 5 days a week. The cost of the fare up there was exactly what I was getting paid. I didn't make any money, but I wanted to prove myself. And then that led to me getting a newspaper, a writing job for the only black-owned newspaper in my state. That was like $7 an hour. Like, it was like no money, but like it built character. And then now I can sit here and do stuff like this because the foundation was laid. And I just feel like more people gotta like maybe look at long-term goals, the big picture, and not think this is the gig right here that's gonna make me blow up. It may come later, but I'm gonna set that foundation because then no one can take it away from you. You know what I mean?
Well, where does the responsibility lie, I think, with teaching that next generation that stuff? Because I think, like
in
you
the
said,
household.
Right. But we've had you've had success, right? And so part of like...
I haven't always had success.
I know.
Right.
But you learn from that.
Exactly.
And so like your mentality is based off of those experiences. I'm saying that when we have children, then we don't want them to kind of have to struggle in the way that we did.
Shit. my kids, they don't get nothing free.
What I've noticed, I worked at a university, right? I ran the counseling center at a university. And what I've noticed is that parents have done a really good job of protecting their kids from adversity, from having to go through any adversity.
Well, we just seen that with the USC scandal and all that with the parents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
And so that what we have now, we have people entering the workforce or entering careers, and they've not been told no. They've always found a way to get what they wanted, or it was given to them.
I was reading something interesting online about the younger generation and how they're not willing to be interns. Unless it's paid.
And I
interned 4 times for free for 4 different companies, and it was just kind of a big deal. Like, oh, I'm not going to work for free. Like, that's their mentality, and I think that goes back to what you're saying is that they don't really want to go through like a struggle.
They're not having to.
Is it
third place prizes?
Is social media somewhat to blame? Because it's like it's embarrassing, right? No one's showing that they're like doing that hard work on social media. Everybody wants to show like the finish line, but not the training.
Everyone who made it has that struggle. Every great story is that. Every great success story is going through the journey of doubt, pushback, and then achieving.
But it's like you said, the struggle isn't sexy.
It's
right?
not
So
sexy
on social media, I don't want to show that part. I want to show my highlight reel. I want to show me turning up.
That's it.
And let me pop bottles and do all that stuff. And it's like, well, now I've internalized that, and I'm saying, well, that's how everybody's living. So I need to do the same thing. Not understanding what it took to get there. That I see you on TV, and I say, oh, she's so successful. But also, I didn't know that you took a bus, for no money really.
No money.
And you did that until you were able to get a job for very little money after that.
Absolutely.
Behind every overnight success story that you see is probably 10 to 20 years of work.
Wow.
That's right.
Vivica Fox said that one time. Like, you see them just come out of nowhere. No, she was grinding for like 5, 10, 15, 20 years sometimes.
Absolutely.
And people got to be open about that, and I respect people that do. So for those of us that, are taking this, are in this rat race, what are the psychological effects for us? Like, how is it hurting us psychologically?
We turn to the
Right. So what I think happens is that it impacts our kind of perception of self, right? So that when we look, and there's this culture of comparison through like social media, and we look at everybody else doing well, we automatically internalize and say, I'm not doing enough, right? And if we don't, how you said, kind of, the system's kind of screwed up, but if we don't also kind of accept that, and we don't externalize and say it's the system, and we internalize it and say, well, it's me, then now something's wrong with me. And so now I'm walking through life that I'm working hard, but I'm not getting the results, then it must be something wrong with me. So then I say that I'm internally flawed or I'm inherently flawed. And so I think that then makes us anxious about things, makes us depressed, right? I'm not good enough. And so I think we walk through life kind of struggling with those things.
Yes, we do.
That's terrible, though.
Yeah.
Does social media ruin the world?
Yes, it has.
Think about it. Relationships, we don't call anymore. We like a picture, or we I hit you on Instagram, right? And now in the workplace, we're comparing ourselves to things that aren't really real. Like that didn't happen overnight. We don't see, you know what I mean? I feel like in so many, it's great to connect, but it's taken away so much.
100%.
What we didn't get when social media, I think, came around was how to use it, right? Like how to view that stuff, like how to kind of evaluate what we see on there. And I think we just accept everything as fact because that's what it used to be, right? It's like you see your neighbor drive up in a Mercedes and you think, well, yeah, they can afford the Mercedes, they have it, and so I know my neighbor, and so it's real. But when you see it on Instagram or on social media, you aren't quite sure about that, but nobody's told us to evaluate it differently, to question it. We just accept it as fact, and because they have it, then, well, I know that person is not too different from me, then why don't I have the same thing?
It's true, and then you have like people like yourself, like if you share that transparent moment, it's kind of affirming, because if I was to read that, I would be like, oh my God, see, I'm going through that. That's good. Like, so
we're on the right path.
Yeah, so that's the positive side of it when people are transparent and can tell that story, because then I read it and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm in good company. Now let me post this picture that's fake.
So basically, it's all of our responsibility that made it. I think it's our responsibility to share and not
teach one.
And not keep that to ourselves, right?
We got an audience question. Let's go to this man with the audience. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. My name is Jose Oliver. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, single parent household. And I think sometimes we struggle with this. Is it self-made obstacles? Do we walk into a workplace and say, they're after me, so our body tenses up and now we're defensive and we're seeing phantoms? And that mixed in with the real life systematic obstacles that are really put there in front of us. So we struggle with this as a people, and we want to blame them, but just it seems like sometimes, like, I've sold cars for 15 years. I've sold Toyotas, I've sold Range Rovers, but it was my mentality that said, I'm not going to let any excuses, whether I'm male, female, black, white, I control my energy. And I don't think we teach our young people to control their perspectives, to control their paradigms, and to control their energy so they control their path. We just let them go haywire, and we take everything. We're so sensitive. And one door, I mean, no matter who you are in life, I don't care whether you're white, black, Latin, Asian, the door has been shut in your face 30, 40 times before you become successful. But I just think sometimes we take it and we internalize it, and we get stuck in that spot.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I agree with him 100%. What do you think about that, Stefan, his comment? I mean, his statement. Stevan, I'm sorry, brother.
No worries. I've gotten it my whole life,
yes.
right? No, I do think there's something to it, is that we create a narrative about the struggle and what that means for us, right? That if we are not reaping the benefits or reaping the rewards kind of immediately, then it's unfair, or there's something wrong with us. I think what you're speaking to is kind of the perseverance that we learn from being able to, I guess, kind of rebound from a no, right? And that's the thing I think that we're starting to miss now in this generation, is where we get no, and there's learning in failure, right? But that learning is not happening because we aren't okay with the process of failing, like that uncomfortability of dealing in that space.
And also, I feel like if you grew up in poverty, right, a lot of times our parents are so stressed out and trying to, like, give you the basics you need. Mm-hmm. We don't have the luxury a lot of times to be like, no,
right,
Laquita, like, watch your attitude. Like,
mm-hmm.
the mom's probably stressed the hell out already, mm-hmm. doesn't have any help, just trying to, like, get through the damn day.
Survival. A
lot of times. And I think when you're on survival mode, you don't have the luxury to, like, to finesse and get your
mm-hmm.
kid and prepare your kid properly, probably, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I always said, like, as a people, I feel like our parents taught us to survive and not to thrive.
Yes.
Like, do just enough to get by. But they never said, live your life, follow your heart, go off of your passion, like, do this, do that. They was just like, listen, I had to make ends meet. Now you go fend for yourself. So then we go on to this world, kind of with that embedded in our brain. Mm-hmm. But to his point, I know me personally, I don't walk into a workplace or to atmospheres guarded as a black woman. That's just my experiences, so I'm talking about them. But I know people who do walk around like that, and I feel like he said, you're bringing that energy to you.
Right.
If I walk into a workplace and I'm like, man, they don't like me in here, like, I'm giving that off.
Absolutely.
And then I'm gonna display this attitude to make people not like me.
Right.
So I think as a people, we should go in, and whoever does it, with the open mind, very friendly, very jovial, doing your job, and then when those experiences come, I feel like you can deal with it, like, accordingly.
Because it causes you to misinterpret, like, kind of social cues or behavior of people, right? It's like a lens, like almost like glasses. So if I have this negative lens on, then I'm interpreting benign behaviors as threatening or negative or aggressive or what have you. And it's based on, what I'm telling myself about that stuff, because I'm already going into the space or into the atmosphere with this negative perception.
I will say we got to kind of watch our attitudes with some things. I remember one time when I first moved to LA, I was very East Coast and very like, what? Like, thinking someone was always coming for me. Yeah. I remember walking around the SWAT meet, right? And this girl was looking me up and down. And I was on the phone with my best friend. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to fight this girl. Is she looking at me up and down?
Was you in the hood?
I was Slauson and Weston.
I'm surprised you didn't get shot.
I know. But anyways, she was looking me up and down, and I took that as she had wanted smoke with me, right? Then she speaks to me in the most valley girl voice. She goes, oh my God, I love your shoes. And I felt so stupid. And that was a lesson for me to not always interpret what people are doing as they're coming for me.
Sure.
They don't want me to win. Like, you don't really know why someone's like doing little things like that.
Right.
Maybe they are admiring you. And I think sometimes we got to lose that chip sometimes. With that.
What do you think about
the real one? Because what you're saying is important as far as intent and perception.
Right.
A lot of times, people's intent is not what we think it is. We grew up in environments we were guarded. We had to fight for everything. In the hood, you got to slap boss. You got to fight. Now, you go into the workforce. That's not how it is.
Right.
You better calm that down, or you're right out of it. And then, of course, perception. A lot of times we perceive things to be different than they are. She doesn't like me. They hating on me.
He disrespected me.
Meanwhile, you sit down with this white or Asian person, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to get to know you. I love your code. So we have to open our minds up and make sure also, on top of what he's saying, be of service. You know, I think that's something that sometimes we lose. We're, you know, scared of that because of some of the history in America. We're not of service. But all of us, when you're at a great place or you're on the way in the path, you're of service in whatever you're doing. And when you have that mentality that I'm here not in servitude, right? So, but you're in service with higher service or just service to one another, providing a service. You know, that changes your mentality as far as racism and how people perceive me. You're one with the spirit. And that's not something we're taught in school. We're taught to memorize these dates. We're taught to memorize these history things. But we're not taught financial health. We're not talking about mental health. We're talking about, and these things will help you if you go into a wider force. Because what you're trained for in the hood is not, and everybody doesn't come from the hood, so I don't want to stereotype everybody, but certain communities where you're trained to do is not what's happening in corporate America. So you have to have a whole new mentality. You have to relearn quick.
That's right.
And you have to kind of dive into it, because if you don't, you will not survive in that atmosphere.
Everybody's not ready for that.
Nope.
You know we have so much trauma, I think, as a
PTSD,
people.
you're right.
We really do. Like, that doesn't just go away in a couple hundred years.
For sure.
Like, think about it. Like, what, 60 years ago, we were getting chewed up by dogs?
We talk about being smacked.
That wasn't just 60 years ago.
Let's talk about
back now, actually.
And being robbed, or being in hostile environments, or being in hostile neighborhoods where there might be a thief or a robber, there were certain, you know, things that were happening in your community. That's PTSD. You had to survive
or
that.
Fear of the police.
Yeah, fear of the police and being shot.
We got the police, each other, corporate America. Like,
so now the man is this bigger fear. Like, oh, you're the man too. Add that on. Like, everything's added on.
I think we have to kind of give ourselves a little bit, a little bit of a pass. And I also think it's a good idea for us to seek therapy and stop making the idea of, you know, being mentally ill or having mental issues so taboo in our community, because we are well within our rights to have some issues and to have a chip on our shoulders at times because of the things we have to go through.
For sure.
And sometimes white people only see what they see of us on TV. And so when they look at us, they're like, oh, this motherfucker crazy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He might have a pistol when he's fighting. You know what I mean? So we have to really watch out. Sometimes they don't know us and we don't know them, and they're trying to get to learn us. You know what I'm saying? What do you feel like about that, Stefan?
I think I like what you're saying. Like, we have to change that stigma around mental health and seeking out services. You know, I mean, if I had a broken leg, you guys would tell me I need to go to the doctor and get that looked at, right? But if it's not a physical pain and it's something psychological, we say you need to man up or get through that and get over it. And we don't treat it the same. So it's not always been a safe space for us to have like emotional pain and to be able to kind of go get assistance for that stuff, right? Like, we're not told not to talk about things that are happening internally with us, you know, don't air our dirty laundry. So there are all these messages that prevent us from being able to do that sort of stuff. But kind of to your point too, is that, you know, and I think you were saying this as well, is that we don't have to take everyone's kind of behavior or interactions with us as a negative experience. That someone may be wanting to get to know us, and are we giving them a space to be able to do that stuff?
Exactly.
But it's also a thing of, like, we have to be a little bit guarded at times, because sometimes if we aren't, we could expose ourselves to some real dangers.
Look how tricky it is for us. Like, we have to constantly be thinking and playing chess all the time.
It's exhausting.
And he touched on something that's powerful, and I think, because I work in media, producing shows, develop shows, 106 in Park, and I remember Social Awards pre-show. I remember you being on that stuff with Pastor.
Good job,
but it's important. But it's important. No, it's important though to say that perception is important in media. And that's the one thing that was big for me coming out of college. Having a psychology degree was why I respect him so much, but the way we're perceived in media is important. People don't see that, because if all you're watching is hip-hop videos and hood, that's not how women are, that's not how we are, but you can have a very altered perception of that. If I saw Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, and I went to Cali, but that's how y'all doing, you're doing drive-bys. I have no idea what these people are really like, so it's important for us to have real images in media that really speak to the way we are, or the possibilities. We are very diverse. There's no one style.
If you look at the news and the people they choose to interview half the time, they'll be like a nice, well-dressed black professional man or woman right there, and they're gonna get the person with the missing teeth and the shower cap on, right? And then they'll put them on the news, and they're doing that to clown us, right? They do that. I worked on a show, and I'm saying The Price is Right. And some of the people they would pick, I'm like, that. You don't have to always pick that type, that stereotype, and it's frustrating because those images are powerful. And there's certain parts of America where they don't have a lot of black people, so the only black people they see are who they put on television. So when you put this guy on TV that's like, you know, hide your kids and all that stuff and all that nonsense, people think we're all like that. They think we're all loving hip hop and basketball wives and Atlanta housewives too. They do, and we're not all like that. We're not all throwing drinks and ratchet, and I hate that. That's why having an opportunity and outlet like Fox Soul, where we can be positive and show polished, successful black people that support each other, we need more of these kind of outlets.
But I like showing the hood. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, but we got to show the hood too. You know what I mean?
No, we do.
We just not gonna show all polished black, because it's two sides to every.
We turn up, but that would always turn up.
The hood's not evil, though.
Exactly.
The hood's not evil.
It's not evil because my best days in my life was the hood. We were. Let me tell you something, man. You know how we were. You know, we looked out for each other back in the day. Your mother, the person down the street used to whoop your ass if something happened.
Your neighbor tell on you.
Your neighbor tell on you, and we were respectful. When I used to go to Miss Brown's door. Check up, how you doing, Miss Brown? You know what I'm saying? She didn't know I was a gangster, but she
even the gangsters had respect.
Even the gangsters had respect. The gangsters don't even have respect these days.
The problem is they're confusing the hood, which is a place where we lived, with ignorance. And that is a big mistake. There's plenty of well-read, intelligent people that are just poor, that just do not have the money. They're not together financially, but they are classy, good people, and that's where we got to stop letting them say that and put that on us. Like the hood does not mean ignorant.
Let me say this: my mother grew up in the Jordan Down projects, okay, and she had a baby when she was 15 years old.
Amen.
And peep this out: she was classy. So, like she said, like you have classy people in the hood. Just because we don't live in Beverly Hills, that don't mean we're not classy. Because you got some trashy people that live in Beverly Hills.
Look at the White House.
You know?
But also that's why they get to be diverse. Other races get to be more diverse, and we get thrown into one box.
Right.
We're all one. Where you never mistake, trailer park people for Trump. They keep them very separate.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Although some might think.
Well, there are more examples kind of out or visible examples of that variety, right? Like on TV or television, how are we being depicted? What's the language being used to describe who we are or how we're behaving, or are we assertive or are we aggressive? Like those little things and how we're being interpreted or talked about is important.
Right.
So has working twice as hard actually ever really helped you in your career? I mean, I know I had a problem with the whole working twice as hard and getting half as far, but have you seen the fruits of your labor? I know you seem like you've been frustrated with the system, like maybe not so much.
I haven't necessarily seen the fruits of my labor, but then I also feel like I'm still on my journey, but I've seen the negative sides of it because I made myself sick. And I feel like it didn't skyrocket me to like this next level by not, turning down any opportunities.
Right.
So I guess my answer right now would be I'm still going, but no, not really. And that's why I'm taking a step back and I've made different changes to kind of better myself, put myself in different positions. How
do you keep the spirit and hope alive, though, when you're doing all this work and it feels like you're spinning your wheels?
I just have enormous faith. I just believe in my talent. I believe in the gift that God gave me, and I feel that the opportunities that I have been afforded, I feel like those opportunities came because I'm on the right path. Unlike other people, like I did intern, I did have a struggle, so my integrity and my spirit for like hustling and working is a little different, but throughout the whole journey, I still wasn't taking the best care of me. So now at this point, I'm not working twice as hard, but I'm working twice as hard to making sure that I'm okay.
Let me say something about black people. We strong people, and we just keep on going.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? We just keep on going and going and going. And even though the obstacles are against us, we just keep on rolling. You know what I mean? So,
can you give some of your game? Because like you admitted like you had nothing and you made it happen. Can you give like some starting out like step one? What would be some advice you could give to people out there? Like step one, they don't have anything and they want to make this company happen.
First of all, don't do nothing you don't love.
I was gonna say,
if you love it, you're gonna work hard at it and you're gonna get some money. If you're just doing anything to get some money, you're gonna keep on going to the next thing, to the next thing, do something you love and stick with it.
That's right.
Period. That's what I did.
Can I co-sign that for a second, because that's so important. Because
Thank you,
I think that's when it doesn't feel like you're working twice as hard.
That's right.
When you find something you love, you're gonna put all the hard work and dedication you have to in it. But like you said, if you find something you don't love, it's just a job. Oh yeah, you're killing yourself. Find that love.
I agree.
Number two.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Stevon?
No, I agree. I think working hard with boundaries is the way to actually go, right? That like it's not about working twice as hard. It's when we're working twice as hard, but we're neglecting ourselves or our own needs. And if we do that in a way that we're having boundaries around that, we aren't looking at the next man and saying, I have to beat that person out, or we're not in this competition, or we're not comparing ourselves to be less than than the other person that we're seeing, then I think we can work really hard. And as long as it's being beneficial to us, we can kind of continue down that. It's when we aren't getting the returns that we need to say, well, maybe this isn't kind of where I need to continue to put my effort and talents.
Do you guys think we have to work twice as hard in like predominantly black spaces as well, or is that just something we do with white folks?
That's a good question.
Or do we get lazy?
Yeah.
Do we get lazy with our own?
No, I don't think it changes. I think that we judge.
And we hate.
You're being evaluated at all times, right?
We're gonna keep the same energy. Like when you go to a black business or like you want to hire someone in, like production or whatever, you can't be like, oh man, come on, hook me up.
Right.
We gotta stop doing that because you would never go to Gucci. You would never go to Louis Vuitton.
Right.
You would never ever dream of asking them to lower their rate and to work for less money for that. We would never ask them to lower their prices for us. We would never do that. But with each other, we're so familiar. We're like, come on, man, I don't want to pay that much for you.
Look for the hookup.
We gotta stop doing that. Though. We have to know our worth. And we have to also pay for the work that we want to work for us, right?
Yeah, when you come in my business, you know how you show you like me? When you pay for your stuff.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? My partner come in and he say, hey man, give me this. Man, you ain't my partner.
New clientele.
You're not trying to help me grow my business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And if you have a friend that's in business and you're not supporting their business and you're buying from everybody else, that's not really your friend.
Right. Exactly.
It's not your friend.
I'm all about coming into a new business. How's the customer service though?
That's right.
Because I'm not gonna walk in your black business and you just sitting there, you ain't even greeting me, you just like, what's up? Oh, I'm out of here. I don't care if you was white or black. I'm big on customer service. That's why, I hate to use the word complain, but I want to support, but it's just like the customer service is not there sometimes, not all the time. And I feel that because sometimes people come straight out of their environment, their hood, whatever, school, whatever, and they didn't have a regular job like we did growing up. Or well, not you, but like they didn't work at the grocery store first.
I did all that.
They didn't work, like a paper route. So they didn't learn customer service. They go straight from school to, I want to start my business. So what happens when somebody complains about the order? What are you going to do?
Siobhan, let me tell you something. Siobhan is so right.
Shells.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Let me tell you, Shells.
You just gave her bad customer service.
And I want to tackle that one, so I want to hear because
I used to sit back in my restaurant and I used to sit there and watch how the greeter greeted. If he didn't greet them right, he had a problem. Because like you said, when you first come in, it's how you're greeted. And if you said, God, this dude greeted me, like you don't want to pay for anything, you know what I mean? Because you are the guest. And I'm supposed to treat you like a king or a queen. You know what I'm saying? What was you about to say, brother?
No, I think you guys are on point, but I want to go piggyback on what you're saying because I think sometimes certain people are just not as comfortable being in service to others. Like, so I don't know if it's the history of enslavement. I don't. But like people get real tense about, I'm not serving you. I'm not. And it's like, no, we got to be at peace with this is the business.
That's right.
This is not personal. It's nothing about you being lesser than her, but she's a customer. You got to treat her like a queen, a king, or whoever it is. And that's how you make money.
But what about how many chances do we give black businesses in that way too, right? That's the thing we're doing. We're doing the same thing, right? It's like as opposed to having that be a teachable moment, we're saying I'm never going to patronize that store anymore.
You going to approach them with their business etiquette?
I mean, if you're saying, hey, what you're doing isn't kind of on par with what I would expect, you could if you want to see black businesses excel, it's the same thing as investing by buying the product you're selling. Why can't I just also share?
I've done that before, and the response I got was not well.
Okay.
So,
But let me just say this last thing before she has to go. I'm even rougher on white business. If you don't treat me right when I go, I'm walking out.
100%.
You heard of white business? They hate it what they're most fearful of?
Right.
Yelp.
Yeah.
Like the end of the world. You want some good BS?
Yeah.
See, social media did some good.
It did do some
good. And just to make the point, like I do that in white businesses too. It's not just I don't do this to black people. If I walk in anywhere, I'm just like I'm not spending my money here.
Thank you, Shell.
So basically, as black businesses, in closing, like we have to like raise our level of professionalism, right? If we want people to pay those prices, and as employees, we have to, kind of like look at the big picture and maybe kind of like lose some of the attitude. But some of it's justified of being mistreated. I think there's a little bit of compromise we probably should be doing.
You're right. I think so too.
You're right,
all right, I'd like to thank our guests, Shells Yvette, Lee Harris, and Stevan Lewis for helping us break down the working too hard mentality. And we want to thank our wonderful studio audience and people watching us on the Fox Soul app. Now, if you're in LA and you want to be in our audience, you can email audience@foxsoul.tv and make sure you keep tuning to Fox Soul. Mike and Donny will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Up next, The Tammy Mack Show. Keep it locked.
Thank you. That's it already? Oh, we gone.